Oh shit, I'm recording again. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So this week initially I was going to release my second reaction video, but it's taking a little bit longer than expected. That being said, I didn't want to leave any of y'all unfed. I still want to create a consistent upload schedule, and I figured I would do something a little more traditional and show you how I do my makeup for my shows. This is the makeup that I've been doing pretty much the entire time that I started burlesque. It didn't always look exactly like this. I think now it is really accumulated to its best version of this makeup look. I'm really happy with how it looks. I pretty much wear it all the time, or a version of it all the time. And as someone who grew up in like the peak of 2016 beauty YouTuber recreating drag looks era, I think that I have learned a lot, and hopefully you can learn something from this tutorial as well. So without further ado, I am going to pass it along to past future Winona. Take it away. Enjoy my bare face. I'll see you at the end of the video. All right, here we are. Let's go. Let's get started. I've got a mug of tea in my Furby mug that I won at a work event. And if tea wasn't enough, I also have my water bottle covered in my stickers, which you can buy at winonajfox.com. Shameless plug. Now, before I even start with the makeup, I will make sure to prep my face with moisturizer and hydration cream. I do feel a little puffier today, but not too puffy. I don't think that will affect the makeup too much. I keep my everyday show makeup in my bag, which is a bag that I actually made back in high school. I found this Marvel... Oh my god, there's a lash on here. Okay. So in the words of Nikki Tutorials, to not prime is a crime. I have a plumping primer here from a brand that I actually don't know because this was just given to me by a coworker. Okay, this is by Siete. And I like this primer. It's got like a nice lemony melon smell, and it's like fairly sticky. So whenever I put it on, I find it does keep the makeup in place. I like to do a little bit of underpainting, mainly just with blush, and then I will go over it with a foundation. You are going to see that I very much suffer from blush blindness. To me, there's no such thing as too much blush. Well, maybe just a little bit. But it's funny because back when I was younger, I used to avoid blush like the plague. It wasn't a full 2000s like pale face, like one swatch of like pale ass wrong color foundation, but it was still pretty like one color. I really didn't want to add any blush or contour or anything like that, and I think it's because for a long time I had like really rosy red cheeks. I still do to an extent, and I just didn't want to accentuate that. But now that I'm older, I really love the warmth that blush gives me. Even now, like, this is like nicely sheerly done. I think it's pretty, and it adds like a nice little subtle pinched cheeks kind of glow. It's very cute. Tea break. It's still too hot. It's still too hot. I can't drink it. I'm gonna burn my tongue. Water break. This is how you keep everything hydrated when you're not using a hydrating primer. You just drink a lot of water, and then you piss it all away in a couple hours. Okay, so now I'm going to get my brushes out, and I'm going to apply some concealer. This is the Maybelline Eraser Corrector Multi-Usage Concealer. Hang on, let me hold it like a beauty guru. Is that right? Is that focusing? Sure. I used to go in and just apply the concealer like this, but recently I came across this profile on TikTok run by an influencer called Adi, and he showed me this trick of just, well, not trick, he basically just said apply your concealer with a brush. So I just put that on my wrist. I'm just gonna take this flat brush that I bought from a Morphe pack like a million years ago, and I'm just gonna tap, 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 tap. And I'm gonna really get in there. And now once that's laid out and I look like I'm wearing 2 under eye patches, I'm going to let that set, and we're gonna come back to this. While I wait for this to set, I'm going to apply my foundation. This is the Maybelline Fit Me Matte Poreless, and I'm also going to apply that using a brush. In the past, I was a big beauty blender girl, and I still use my beauty blender to sort of smooth everything out, but recently I've really been liking using a brush to apply my foundation. I don't know, I just think it gives like a really nice, like, not sheer, but I guess natural finish that in the past I wasn't always able to achieve with more full coverage products. But I find that this really helps, and like really helps to make things more even. Don't misunderstand, I look crazy right now. It looks streaky and weird. We're gonna blend it in And, you know, you just have to trust the process. And then once I'm done generously applying that with a brush, I go in with the Beauty Blender just to, you know, smooth it out, buff it in, make sure it's really getting into my skin. I'm still not touching the concealer. We're gonna get to that after this. All right, now that my base is laid onto me, I'm gonna come back to the concealer. And this is a trick that I picked up from Adi, that influencer I mentioned earlier. I'm going to take a little like pointed concealer brush, and now that this is set, I'm going to squint my eyes, but I'm going to use this mirror and get really up close and personal. And wherever I see any like excess product, I am just going to blend that out and essentially take off the excess. Now that that's done, I'm going to give it a general blend with my Beauty Blender. I also forgot to go over the nose when I put on my foundation, so this is also going to help with that. And then I'm going to set with powder. I use loose powder rather than a pressed powder. I just like it more. Now before I directly apply to the skin, I'm going to use Adi's technique again, where I basically have the brush with the powder, and I'm going to buff it out on the back of my hand. Oh god, oh, it's everywhere. Oh, I put way too much on the brush. I buff it on the back of my hand, and then I just gently press it into the skin. Oh, my robe is ruined. But I gently press it into the skin as well as other parts of my face. And supposedly this is just supposed to help introduce your skin to the powder without shocking the liquid underneath. I don't really understand the science behind it, but I do find that as a final result, it works very well. I found that in the past, if I didn't do this, it would just cake up and crease in my under eye, and oftentimes even cause like bleeding to happen with my eyeshadow, and I find that that's not the case here. Tea break. Oh, that's good. I needed multiple sips. That was excellent. And now we are going to move on to the eyes and eyebrows. And I just do a pretty basic like fill-in shape for my brows, nothing too crazy. I will take a spoolie and just, you know, brush up the hairs so that they lay flat. And then I will go in with a tiny pointed brush like this, and I'll just dip into whatever kind of blackish brown shadow that I have. I'm gonna use this one here, which is from this White Peach Too Faced palette that I bought like 3 years ago. I just pick up that dark black shade, which is called On the Grill, which is a great name. I can't believe I never noticed that. And I just go in and do a basic filling. Then I go back with the spoolie and just again kind of brush it out to give it a more natural diffused look at the front of the brow. I don't really do this to the tips of the brow, you'll see why in a minute. And then I'm going to take my concealer and an angled brush, and I'm just going to use this to clean this line up. See, you can see that this one is much sharper and cleaner than this one is currently. One of the pieces of inspiration for my brow shape is this photo of Rita Moreno back when she was like just starting out, where she is like looking at the camera, pouting, looking like the absolute beautiful star that she is. And I saw that photo and I was just like, that is how I want to look on stage. She has a bit of an arch in that photo, but I find that the arch mostly comes from her expression, which makes a lot of sense. I also enjoy making shapes with my brows on stage. So having a slightly like more subtle arch rather than a kind of more intense arch, I think really lends itself well to that. Remember y'all, the brows shape the face, so you can't go wrong with the rest of your makeup if your brows are looking good. Says the woman who is not a professional makeup artist and just watched a lot of YouTube growing up. And then I go in with the Beauty Blender and just kind of blend that area there. And if the concealer gets on the eye, that's fine, because actually the next step is to prime the eyelids for the eyeshadow. And I'm going to do that with some concealer as well. I'm just gonna do a little like this. These are some lovely faces that I'm making to the camera. For most of my looks, I use this Morphe Collab palette, which I'm not going to show you because it has generally been agreed upon that this person is no longer super well respected in the beauty community, but it is a good palette and it's lasted me a long time, and like I said, I prefer to use up my makeup. But I am going to be taking just a basic white/nude color and just putting it over the eye, as a base color and also to just give it some lightness. Once that's done, I'm going to take this e.l.f. brush that is so beat up. Holy shit. This is like the wood with the lame stripped off. As you can tell, this is my ride or die blending brush. You'll have to pry this away from my cold, dead fingers. But I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to use this kind of brownie mauvey color that I like and use a lot, and I'm just gonna put that all up in my crease. I don't necessarily do like a historically accurate makeup look, like a 50s makeup look. I just kind of go with the general vibe while kind of amping it up so that it looks good on stage. I also have eyelids that are kind of turned down, which I used to be really insecure about growing up because I found that every time I smiled, I looked like sad because my eyes wouldn't go naturally up. But now that I'm older, I've really learned to embrace that and kind of cater my makeup to my eye shape, which is why I'm kind of bringing the shadow down almost in this kind of like 1920s style. And I don't know, I just think once it all comes together it looks really pretty and just accentuates my face more. That's the base transition color for now. If I need to go back and blend it, I will. But we're gonna move on to the outer corner. And for that I'm gonna use this like dual Kat Von D brush that I bought a million years ago, also during a time before she was considered problematic. And I'm going to take the kind of larger end of that brush and I'm going to go in a bunch of different colors, mainly this reddish dark brown, this kind of dark neutral brown, and this really dark brown and black, and I'm just gonna pack that in the outer corner. And earlier I said that I will bring the transition shade down to kind of complement my eyes, but this is actually where we'll add some lift so that it makes my eyes look a little bigger and brighter on stage. This is a part of the makeup process that I have to try not to blend. Like, my instinct is to blend it out and smoke it out, but since the objective is for this to pop on stage, blending it will actually decrease its impact in my opinion. So I just kind of stamp it and very lightly blend it into the center of the eye, but not on the outer part of the eye. I have hooded eyes, I forgot to mention that earlier, so my neutral face is like this. And already you can see that that kind of hides a lot of the work that we did. So I work really hard to make sure that the shadow is kind of poking out from above my crease. You can see it more on this side than on this side, so I might go back and fix that. But the goal, generally speaking, is to get as much color and shadow on my eye visible as possible. I will say that when I'm performing, my face is not in its neutral position. I'm much more active on stage. My eyebrows tend to be raised, my eyes tend to look bigger. But generally speaking, I want the makeup to be visible regardless of where my face is at, whether I'm looking a little more neutral on stage or a little more active on stage. Oh, I just touched the microphone with my brush. I wonder if... Can you hear that? Is that ASMR? Ah, shit, I'm getting eyeshadow all over my mic. For my lid center, I really like to go in with like a gold pressed glitter. And so what I will do in that case is take some kind of gold shimmery product and just, you know, pop it on the center of my lid with my finger. I don't really use a brush for this part. I just get in there. This gold is actually a little too light for me, in my opinion. Well, not necessarily too light for my skin tone, but a bit too light for the effect that I'm trying to get. So I have this other Morphe palette that I love, and this is like pure shimmer, pure sex. Like, I am obsessed with this palette. But yeah, since this is a bit too light, and since my pressed gold is actually in this palette, I'm actually gonna go in on some of these darker shades that come with the palette, including this kind of orangey one right here, but also these guys in the center. I'm just gonna pop that on the lid again. You can kind of see the difference. Like, this just ties in more with the brown tones that I applied rather than this one, which is just a bit too light and not necessarily pink tone, but maybe not as deep as it needs to be. And so I'm just gonna correct that. And already that looks so much better. I always forget to get makeup wipes when I use my hands though, so I end up just, you know, wiping my hands on my legs or on the palm of my hand or the wrist of my hands and cleaning it up after. And now that the top of the eyelid is done, I'm gonna go in with my powder brush again and just get rid of all that powder. I actually need a fluffier brush for this. Remember, I have really dry skin, so powder will just stick to me like there's no tomorrow. It has no reason to fall off my face, so I don't need much. And even the powder I do apply can sometimes just really cake up in the creases of my eyes and the creases of my skin. So I try really hard once it's set to just get rid of much of it as possible. But yeah, my under eye is nice and clean. There's no creasing happening. And this is actually great because now I'm going to add some stuff to my waterline. And I don't necessarily bring it all the way to the inner corner of my eye. I think it's a little more effective if I only bring it to the center of my eye. And I also won't go like too far down with it, even though I know some people really like that kind of smoky look to it. I do like a smoky look, but for my general 50s look, I find it doesn't translate as well. In the past, before I employed Addie's technique, sometimes I would just skip this step because the bleed from my top eyeshadow was so bad, it would basically create this natural waterline effect just from the creasing alone. And so sometimes I would just take a clean brush and blend that out. But now that I've employed this technique and there's a lot less creasing and a lot less fallout happening, I can go in with a lot more control and just generally make this look a little cleaner and a little more professional than I used to be able to. Next, I'm going to take some black eyeliner and I'm just going to carve out a really simple wing. This is the NYX Epic Ink Liner. I am obsessed with this eyeliner. If you're a drag performer, a burlesque performer, someone who just likes to do a lot of photo shoots, cosplay, whatever, to me this is the best budget-friendly liquid eyeliner out there. It's basically like this like thick, pigmented, like almost Sharpie color. It's really cool. And it lasts a really long time as well. I've gone swimming in this, and while sometimes the liner has faded, it's never really like bled and fell off. And again, because I have hooded eyes as well as downturned eyes, instead of doing like a swoopy kind of 50s wave, what I'm instead going to do is create almost like a bat wing shape. This is another hack that I saw on TikTok that I was so mad that I didn't know about growing up, because I could not figure out how to get my eyeliner to have that like really sexy sharp edge. And it wasn't until I was like 25 that I learned that you could do other types of winged liner to accentuate your eye shape. So that's what I do now. It works great. If you're a hooded eyes girl, definitely look up a tutorial because it is a game changer. All right, I'm gonna leave the eyes for a moment and focus on the rest of the face. Next step is blush and contouring. This is Hoola by Benefit. This is the little mini one, but you can use any bronzer contour color that you like. And I like to go in on my temples, on my forehead. I like to basically try to mimic this day at the beach sun-kissed look. And also, even though I'm like chiseling out my face to make it look a little more defined and angular, I'm not necessarily trying to hide the roundness in my face, which you're gonna see when I apply the blush. I don't know if you guys have figured this out already, but I don't really have a symmetrical face. One side of my face is a little rounder than the other, which again is something that I've been insecure about in the past, but I don't know, I really like it. Like, yeah, I've got my good side and my bad side, but I don't know, I think that's what makes me special. It's not something that I think I'm ever gonna correct, and that is a note to future Winona. Face shapes and body shapes go in and out of style all the time. There's literally no point in getting like cosmetic facial surgery if, you know, your face shape is then going to be the next trendy thing in like 10 years. It's not worth it. Save your money. And then once I'm done with this very light contouring, I'm gonna go in some blush. I have two blushes that I really like and that I sometimes layer together. The first is this kind of peachy Annabelle blush, and it's just this like nice peachy, almost like sparkly kind of tone, and this is just going to add a nice flush to my face. And again, you can't really tell on camera, this is a very subtle blush, but it is adding just like the lightest shades of warmth back into my face, which is really nice. And it's so light that I'll even go and like put it on my nose to give it like this sun-kissed look. Look how that changed. It's like almost like a natural nose contour when you put blush on it. I have no idea how it works, but that just immediately made my nose like look so present and not lost with the rest of my face. I think it looks great. And then I'm going to use this product that I love. This is a blush by the Latina brand Reina Rebelde, and this is called Rosa Blush, like my friend Rosa Gold. And this is a very similar color, but it's just slightly deeper. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but you'll see when I pick it up on the brush. Like, I've packed a lot on this. You really don't need much. I'm even gonna tap some of that excess off, but like, and like you can see, right, like the amount of warmth that was just brought in. And I know some people are gonna be looking at this and being like, that's way too much blush. This is meant to go on stage. This is not for a photo shoot. This is not, you know, to wear on a first date with someone. This is to get your stage photos in the bright, garish lights and make sure that your face doesn't get lost in your insane costume. Sometimes even right before I go on stage, I will apply like one more layer of blush just to be sure. But for the sake of the video, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to blend this out. and make it all nice and cohesive. And as you can see, that just kind of, you know, smoothed it out a little bit more. Is it too smooth? Okay, I said I wasn't going to add more blush, but I am going to just take some of that light Annabelle blush and just apply it to the apples of my cheeks one last time. Next is highlighter, and I'm not particularly picky about my highlighter. In fact, sometimes I'll just take a shimmery eyeshadow and go with that. But I have this old Anastasia Beverly Hills Nicole Guerrero palette that, once again, is beat up like no other. I'm just gonna take this brush and use a whole bunch of these colors and just, you know, shimmer and shine to the stars. So now we are basically at the final touches of this look, and the next thing we're going to add is some glitter. Oh, look at that. Stunning. Next, I'm gonna go in with some lashes, and I like a really big fluttery lash. These are by the brand Kiss, and these are the You Do You lash, which I think is such a cute name. Like, just look at how that transformed the entire face. Like, yeah, they're still big, full lashes, but there's still just enough space to kind of get a glint of the glitter underneath. But even without that, don't be afraid to go big on a lash. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got for burlesque makeup was, every time you blink, it's another reveal to the audience. And then once the glue is dried down, I will just go back in with that eyeliner and just, you know, connect any lines that I need to make sure that the lash looks nice and full. And that's pretty much it for the eyes. Wait, Winona, aren't you forgetting the mascara? And my sweet summer child, I'm really sorry to tell you, I don't really wear mascara. I have really sparse and fine lashes, and usually the audience is not close enough to be able to see my real lashes anyway, and so I often just skip that step if I'm being totally honest. Sometimes I will wear mascara with a lash if I'm doing a photo shoot, and in that case I will use the They're Real Magnetic Lash Mascara from Benefit, but if I'm going on stage, rarely am I gonna get so up close and personal with the audience that they're gonna notice if I'm wearing mascara. Add mascara if you want to. Comment your favorite mascara in the comments. Maybe there's one that I will eventually love enough to actually wear with my stage makeup. But for now, sorry babe, but you're going back in the bag. Oh wait, actually no, I did forget one more step. I do need to set my brows with a clear gel, and I just use the clear NYX one with a little spoolie. And I just, you know, include it to set it and keep them from moving. There we go, that's much better. And last but not least, we have the lips. Now, it's very customary in burlesque to do a red lip. That is what Dita Von Teese does. It's very 1950s. It's timeless. It works on just about any skin tone. But I personally prefer to do a kind of almost mauve-y, like soft pink lip. First, I go in with a brick colored lip liner. This is from NYX. This is called Brick House, coincidentally enough. And I'm just going to take that and line my lips. I do overline the Cupid's bow a tad, but rather than kind of like overdrawing the Cupid's bow, what I really do is just kind of make the tips of my Cupid's bow a little more pointy and pronounced, but I'll fill it in, and I'll also fill it in to like slightly the center of my lip, and then I'll just tap it and blend it. And so that is step one. And then depending on how dry my lips are, this will either be one or two steps. If I have very dry lips, I will skip this next step and just go straight to applying a traditional lipstick. But when my lips are less dry, I will go in with a mattifying liquid lipstick just to make sure everything is secure. This is an old Kat Von D liquid lipstick, and this is the color Lovecraft. Again, I'll just kind of blend it in with my finger so that the line is a little less sharp. And for the final touch, once this has dried down completely, I will go in with a traditional satin finish lipstick. This is by L'Oreal, and the color is, I have no idea, the bottom has been completely rubbed off. But similar to that Kat Von D lipstick, it is this really nice, like, mauvey brick adjacent color. And this is just going to give the center of the lips a nice satin sheen. And then again, I will just take my finger. And with that, the makeup is done. Ugh. Oh, that feels good to remove. All right, I'm going to get dressed. I'm going to let Winona from the beginning of the video take you out. Woo, transition. All right, I'm gonna stop now. See you in a minute. So that was the tutorial. I hope you liked it and I hope you learned something from it. Next month's video should be my next reaction video, which I think is gonna turn out really well if all goes according to plan. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment, as it really helps me build my following on this website. If you'd like to support me further, you can follow me on Instagram or TikTok. I post a lot there. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!